Greetings! I am Tantas Naravan Dracovin, Lord and Emperor of the Dracovin Empire. Welcome. Today I'm going to continue our discussion of 5th edition Dungeons & Dragons. I'm going to get into a lot of the rules about adventuring. This is going to be some of the basic rules that you're going to use when adventuring in your game. So let's begin talking about it. Now, what's going to work when you're adventuring is that your DM is going to describe something. He's going to describe the setup. You're going to tell that your DM what you want to do then, and your DM will describe the results. And you'll keep doing this back and forth to describe what's going on in your adventure. Now, adventuring takes place in periods of time. It can be days, hours, minutes, or rounds. A round is 6 seconds. Rounds build up into minutes, minutes build up into hours, hours build up into days, and they describe the amount of time and is going on. Now, you can travel by walking, or you can travel by vehicle. Regardless, you're going to be traveling 8 hours a day. If you travel any farther than 8 hours, well, any longer than 8 hours, you're going on a forced march. And they have rules for doing that. You can do that, but you might start getting penalties to yourself from it. Now, you can also walk at different paces and move at different paces. You can go at a fast pace, at a normal pace, or a slow pace. Each of these has their different bonuses. You get things for being at these paces. That maybe going at a slow pace, you can be more defensive, while at a fast pace, you can get more ground quicker. Now, if the terrain you're traveling through is difficult, it will half whatever speed you're going to go through, regardless of what kind of movement you're doing. If it's going to be tactical, difficult terrain will half your speed. If it's going overland, again, it's going to half the amount of distance you can make. They give the rules for swimming, they give the rules for climbing, and they give the rules for climbing. All of these affect your basic speed that you're going to be traveling at. They also give some rules for jumping in the book based on what your speed would be, and it will tell you how far you can jump. Now, when traveling as a group, it's very important that you decide a general kind of traveling order. What kind of format you're traveling in, if you're traveling a straight line, if you're traveling in a group, how you're spread out. These make differences for when threats may occur during your travel time, if something should happen. Also, it also is good to note if you're trying to be more stealthy when you're traveling, or you're just trying to do a normal travel. Again, when you're doing a slow speed, slow travel, you can move stealthily. On the other hand, if you're going faster, you're going to have problems doing that sort of thing. Now, there are hazards that occur in the world. The major one that I'm going to talk about right now is, of course, falling. It can happen. For every 10 feet you fall, you take a d6 of damage, to a maximum of 20 d6, meaning at 200 feet of fall, I max out the amount of damage I can take from that fall. It's going to suck a lot, and it's going to hurt a lot, but you could fall that distance and survive. There is the distinct possibility of that occurring, depending on how much damage is rolled on the dice. Then they do have good rules for suffocation, if you should encourage that, whether like through cave-in or through drowning. The book lists all the rules for illumination and vision in there. It lists the rules for needing food and water, should you have problems with getting any of these. And it gives the rules for interacting with any kind of special objects. Now, most of these rules are probably not going to come up in your game, like the food, the water kind of interactions. The light might not come up depending on the circumstances. But if they are needed, they are mentioned in the book, anything that will occur. The light might occur if I'm deciding not to use a torch and I'm going to fight in the dark. That's the sort of time where I might have to worry about it. If I'm using a torch, I'm probably not going to use it about it. Or if I have dark vision, or if I'm in a situation where my low light vision comes into play, then it's not going to matter. If your DM is going to bring in the food and water things, it's going to assume because you are not buying it, or you're doing things where you're going to have to worry about running out of supplies, like crossing a desert. Now, the book does talk about social interactions next. There's 2 types of social interactions. Ones where you have to roll dice, and ones where you don't have to roll dice. And in fact, they both occur at the same time, is a good way of thinking about it. My interaction, describing what I'm going to do, saying what I'm going to say, I might still have to roll a skill check, or some kind of d20 roll, to match with whatever I'm doing. But whatever I roll might be enhanced by what I've said or done. And your game master will determine that. So I could choose to do certain actions. If I'm trying to be diplomatic and I act like a real jerk with the way I'm doing and saying things, I might get a penalty, or I might get disadvantage to that roll. While on the other hand, if I'm doing things very right, or like offering bribes and stuff like that, I might get advantage to that roll. On the other hand, I could roll first and see how well I'm doing and then reflect that in the way I'm acting if I really wanted to. Those are both options for how you want to take care of a social situation. I recommend the former rather than the latter. It would really be up to your dungeon master how the circumstance applies. Like, if you could think of circumstances, if you can think of the way you want to say things, and therefore say them beforehand, before making the roll, that would be something that is going to be the one you're trying for. But if you're at a loss for words, but know you want to be diplomatic, your game master might be nice and just say, go ahead and roll, and then you could try to add in what you're going to say, depending on how well you roll. That might be another thing that your dungeon master will say, just depending on the circumstances. Now, there are 2 types of rests you can take. You can take a short rest, which is 1 hour, or long rest, which is 8 hours. A short rest only recovers certain abilities. Your character, your class, will tell you what abilities you recover from a short rest, but you can also spend your hit dice to recover hit points. Effectively what it means is if I have a D10, let's say I'm a fighter, I have a D10. During my short rest, I can roll that D10, add my Constitution modifier, and heal that many hit points. And I get a number of D10s I could roll between long rests equivalent to my level. So if I'm second level, I could roll 2d10, add my Constitution modifier both times, and heal that many hit points. Now again, if I take a couple of short rests before a long rest, I could use those up and not have any more of them and not be able to use them and still be injured. If I take a long rest, I completely recover all my abilities and all my HP. So that's a complete recovery, is what a long rest does. The short rest is a small recovery. Long rest is a large recovery. Now the last thing I want to talk about here is talking a little bit about between adventures. Between adventures you might have to worry about your lifestyle. I did mention that under the gear a little bit, but this is the really point where it comes in. If the time between adventure is long enough, you might have to pay for a lifestyle. If it's very short, you might have to worry about it. But there are certain things you might want to do that would require you to go between adventures. It's the downtime you get. Things like crafting an item, doing any kind of research, recuperating for certain types of wounds, doing a profession, or training are things you want to do during your downtime. All these things have specific game effects that lists in the book, and if you want to look into doing one of those during your downtime, I'd read it. The book is the best resource here. I'm only letting you know that you can do these things. If you want to do them, read up on it. Anyway, that's it for today. I've gone over about some of the basics of the world you're in and some of the basic rules about doing things in it, interactions with your adventuring. If you have any questions, comments, anything you want to say, anything you think I forgot, leave it in the comments below. If you enjoyed this video, you learned some things from it, please leave a like. If you already haven't, please subscribe. It's a great way of showing your support for the channel, for the Empire, by becoming a citizen. For anybody that would learn anything from this video or would enjoy it, please share it. And until the next time, I bid you farewell.